Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 449, Plant-Based Prep Storage with Pat and Dianne Doyle.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we do a little ditty with Pat and Dianne Doyle about Instant Pots, prep hacks, and mason jar storage. Each of them has a unique cancer journey that led them closer and closer to the plant-based lifestyle. You're going to find it interesting how they were able to find a system that worked for them to save time, make eating healthier easy, and spread those tools to the rest of the world. We learned a little bit about how mason jars can extend shelf life of the foods that they prepare, both frozen and fresh. You're going to want to listen to all of the tips and tricks in this one. We hope you enjoy the show.
Pat and Dianne are enthusiastic advocates of living a whole foods plant-based lifestyle. They focus on raising awareness of the benefits and teaching new followers how to easily prepare delicious meals. They also believe in the importance of community support and organize events such as informational meetings, food prep demos, potluck dinners, jar swaps, and meetups. Dianne has earned the certificate in plant-based nutrition from the Colin Campbell Center of Nutrition Studies through eCornell. She's also an avid gardener and has turned her flower beds and most of her yard into fruit and vegetable gardens. Pat and Dianne are proud to be helping people on all channels under the name Plant-Based Dallas. Great tips and tricks in this one. Check it out. If you want a healthy, natural way to fuel your workouts or fire up your brain, Energy Bits are for you. Energy Bits are tiny spirulina algae tabs that are nutritionally dense, a source of mental and physical energy that is all natural and causes no stomach distress. They eliminate fatigue and hunger instantly with no caffeine, sugar, chemicals, gluten, or soy, just pure plant-based nutrition. One ingredient, 1 calorie, and 0 net carbs. I use them before workouts or sometimes just as a snack. They make me feel great and give me that extra energy boost I'm sometimes looking for. I also use Recovery Bits, which are tiny chlorella tabs. I use them after workouts or when I'm feeling hungry late at night. Visit energybits.com and order Energy Bits, Recovery Bits, Vitality Bits, or Skinny Bits and use the promo code PLANTTRAINERS to get 20% off your order at checkout. The link will also be in the show notes just in case you didn't get that all down. Improve your energy, wellness, and waistline all at the same time with Energy Bits. Check out Energy Bits today and feel the difference. Your brain and body will say thank you. And now for a moment of gratitude.
So it's been about 8 months since we have our little puppy, and she's just part of the family, and I can't imagine life with her. She brings so much to us, and I'm very grateful for her presence with us.
I'm grateful for our puppy making us happy and making our kids happy, and spending time with the dog is always fun. It gets us all out together, and she's been a great addition to the family.
Pat and Dianne Doyle, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
Thank you for letting us join you. We're excited to visit with you.
We're glad to be with you.
Good. We love some of the things that you're doing, so we are excited to have you on the show today. But of course, as our listeners know, before we get into all of those other good things, we'd love to hear what your moment of gratitude is. Each of you. Who's going first?
Well, I will say we're so thankful for our newest grandson who was born just about a week ago. And we were able to be up there with him, and grateful for family.
Congratulations.
My gratitude is for A, good health, and B, for loving children, loving spouses, and 11, soon to be 12 grandchildren.
Hey, you guys have a big family, right? 5 kids, almost 12 grandchildren.
Wow.
That's a blessing, really.
It's amazing. Family is so important, and having so many great people around you to love and love you, that's awesome. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
We are blessed beyond what we deserve.
So we'd love to hear a little bit about your plant-based journey and how you found plant-based. Tell us the story.
Pat, why don't you start?
My personal story started back in 2011 when I was 51 or 52 years old and was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And thought I was leading a healthy lifestyle. I work out every day, thought I was eating healthy, and was shocked to get that diagnosis. We immediately opted for surgery and had a radical prostatectomy, which in hindsight was a massive mistake, but we just didn't know any better. We had not done any research, and the only thing I remember asking the doctor is, what are the side effects of a radical prostatectomy? And he says, well, you won't be able to have children anymore. And I thought, well, if that's the biggest side effect, then that's not so bad. I mean, we've got 5 kids and we're happy with that. So had the surgery, and the rest is history. I am now, as of September of last year, I was 10 years cancer-free. So I am deemed to be cured of prostate cancer, though I'm not taking my chances.
And I know when I first heard that he had prostate cancer, I immediately Googled it and tried to figure out how or why he could have gotten that, because with 5 kids, we didn't go out to eat that much. I cooked at home, which I thought were healthy meals. And looking back on it, they were filled with meat and cheese and sour cream and all that goes with the Western diet. But I did find a word that said cruciferous veggies help with prostate cancer. And of course, I didn't even know what a cruciferous veggie was. So I had to look that up. And well, we didn't eat very many cruciferous vegetables, but that started the search. So I started cooking healthier after his prostate cancer. And then 2 years later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And again, had never even heard of plant-based or anything like that. Immediately went in, oh my God, take them off. Even though it was stage 1 DCIS, which is almost a preliminary, you get so scared with the C word. So had them both taken off. And it was during my recovery that someone handed you a book.
I was actually on a golf boondoggle out in Scottsdale, and I was making myself a smoothie one morning. And a guy said, what are you doing? I said, well, my wife and I, we're trying to eat more vegetables and whatnot, plants and that sort of thing. And he says, well, there's a book you ought to read. It's called Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Furman. And I literally texted her as soon as he and I finished that conversation and said, this guy recommended this book. You might want to check it out. She's a huge reader.
So I read that one, and then that led me we watched Forks Over Knives. And then the next book I got was a China study. And after I read the China study, I'm like, okay, there's something to this, Pat. It's not just cancer and food, it's food and every other single chronic disease. I mean, it's about the food. And so after we watched the movie Forks Over Knives, I said, hey, you want to do a little experiment? We've got all of our blood numbers because we've just been through cancer. We've got some base levels. He was on cholesterol medication. My cholesterol was 220, but I wasn't on any kind of medication. Neither one of us were overweight, I would say, but we were just average. And so I said, let's do an experiment. Let's give up all red meat, all processed food, sugars. And we ate a little bit of fish and we ate a little bit of chicken, and we were still eating eggs because we had chickens at that time. But even after 6 weeks of just eliminating red meat, processed foods, all dairy, he lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks, just like that. It was dropping off because we both exercised, and his cholesterol went to pre-medication numbers.
It's lower than what it was when I was on medication.
And my cholesterol dropped from 220 to 160. This is, just in 6 weeks. But the key thing was I had always had since 2005 a high CRP number, inflammation marker, C-reactive protein. And I even had it after my breast surgery, 3 months after that. So even the breast surgery didn't cure this high inflammation marker. The key thing was after those 6 weeks of giving up those foods, that number went to 0. And it hadn't been 0 since 2000, prior to 2005. So that we looked at the numbers, we looked at the results, and I said, oh my God, what should we do? And your words were,
so we'd have to be idiots to go back to eating how we used to.
And so that was the beginning. It wasn't overnight. It was a transition like most people. We didn't know oil was not so good for us. And, so we slowly transitioned into what we do now.
Yeah, it's really amazing how the impact the food has on us. It makes such a huge difference. And congratulations on the changes that you made. And it must have been really tough, and it must be really rewarding to know that you're able to get through it and start living again. And you mentioned Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Furman. And for those listening, he was on our show, and I'll put a link to his podcast in our show notes at planttrainers.com. And as well, you mentioned the China study, and Dr. T. Colin Campbell was with us as well. So I'll link to that as well.
And the books that you're bringing up are books that we keep hearing about. I mean, we've read it, but we keep hearing about over and over again, really, really influential books. And so that guy that you met on the golf course that day, he told you to read that book, but Have you ever found him again? Like, does he have any idea what kind of impact he's made in your life?
Yes, I have. I saw him, probably about 5 years ago. I was in his office, and he unfortunately is kind of fallen off the wagon, but he may be back on at this point. But I told him, you literally changed our lives for the better. Saved our lives. And he looked at me and said, my God, you look so different. And I said, it's basically, I found the fountain of youth. We didn't know that eating this way not only makes you healthy, it just makes you feel better, look better. There's so many benefits, and prior to starting this lifestyle, we thought, like Dianne said, we were eating healthy. But to me, being healthy was more about working out. I've always enjoyed working out, and eating healthy meant eating the most lean red meat you could get, or whatever it was.
We're not eating fast food every day.
Right. And it really wasn't until we started this journey that we realized the correlation between the high the high cholesterol that I had and basically everything that all ties back to food. And we're like, we didn't even know when we thought we were eating healthy, we didn't even know what healthy eating was.
It's so similar to where we were at 12 years ago as well. We didn't eat in restaurants a lot. I made most foods from scratch at home. We didn't eat red meat very often, so we were doing what we thought was right. But, tumor was growing in his body. So it's interesting how impactful your diet can really be, and then how much we're doing to impact other people. And I know that you guys have a lot going on that's helping other people. And I love that you reached out a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, I have these Instant Pot magnets. I'd love to send you some. I was going to say down in Canada, but up in Canada. So talk to us a little bit about how the Instant Pot helps you maintain this lifestyle and makes it a little bit easier for you to be able to be organized and not take up so much time cooking everything from scratch.
Right. One of the most common comments is, it takes so much work. It's so hard to change everything. And I didn't want it to be that way. So I had heard about the Instant Pot, and I got one and started using it. I'm like, oh, this is a game changer, because not only can I cook what I'm going to have for this meal, but I can cook enough to freeze. So I figured out that if I cook my beans and my grains, if I drain them and rinse them and then put them in one of these glass jars, I can actually freeze it for later use. And so I don't cook a whole lot of vegetables in it, because vegetables cook so fast. I just cook my potatoes, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, and my beans and grains in it. And I don't ever soak anything, because I never have time to think about soaking it, and can cook lots of food very, very fast. And, it's really just about the food. I will make special recipes, but we keep our jars filled with our fruits, our veggies, our beans, our grains, and we just eat from our jars. And the magnets help us do that easily, and the Instant Pot.
Yeah, so I love my red beans, my black beans, my chickpeas. I'll cook a huge pot of it at a time and then divide it up so that I could defrost, sections at a time. And I'm always walking back. So my Instant Pot is on one side of my kitchen and my cookbooks are on the other side. And not that it's awful to walk back and forth, but I'm always walking back and forth to open up the book to say, how long do I need to cook this for? And then I go back to the Instant Pot and my phone beeps and my kid asks me a question and my dog needs to go out. And then by the time I go to set the Instant Pot, I've forgotten how long it needs to be. So I have to walk back to the book. So now I have this beautiful magnet sitting on the Instant Pot so that I can say, okay, I'm cooking amaranth, I'm cooking red beans, I'm cooking lentils. How long do I need to cook it for? And if I've soaked it, I've learned now I just need to subtract 10 minutes, which is perfect and awesome. I do try to soak, but again, I don't always have the time. When I'm doing the big bulk batches, I think about it in advance. But when I'm just cooking a stew or something like that, I don't normally have time to soak it either, because I haven't thought it through enough. But so these magnets, talk to us about where that idea was.
Well, it was funny. I was doing the same thing you were. And I talked to my daughter and I said, hey, I've come up with a list. Can you type this up for me and I can have it made into a little laminated card? And she goes, well, why don't you just have it made into a magnet? And she goes, and you could probably sell those. I'm like, I could? What? So she was the one who helped me design it and made it. And that just sort of happened. And, we don't.
Diane's an engineer by trade. So she's always looking for a way to bring efficiencies into the process. And that's what these magnets do. They not only does it give her a chance to make a little bit of money, but it's more about, it makes the process of cooking in the Instant Pot easier.
There's so much more great information coming your way, but before we get to that, we wanted to share with you and let you know that if you want a healthy, natural way to fuel your workouts or fire up your brain, Energy Bits are for you. Energy Bits are tiny spirulina algae tabs that are nutritionally dense, a source of mental and physical energy that is all natural and causes no stomach distress. They eliminate fatigue and hunger instantly with no caffeine, sugar, chemicals, gluten, or soy, just pure plant-based nutrition. 1 ingredient, 1 calorie, and 0 net carbs. I use them before workouts or sometimes just as a snack. They make me feel great and give me that extra energy boost I'm sometimes looking for. I also use Recovery Bits, which are tiny chlorella tabs. I use them after workouts or when I'm feeling hungry late at night. Visit energybits.com and order Energy Bits, Recovery Bits, Vitality Bits, or Skinny Bits, and use the promo code PLANTTRAINERS to get 20% off your order at checkout. The link will also be in the show notes just in case you didn't get that all down. Improve your energy, wellness, and waistline all at the same time with Energy Bits. Check out Energy Bits today and feel the difference. Your brain and body will say thank you. And now back to the show.
Now that 10 minutes, I want to clarify, that's only for grains. Beans are all different depending on the beans. So I like your suggestion of having another number for the soaked beans, but that's going to take me a little while to work on that because each one is different.
Yeah, each one is different. But if you do have the book that the Instant Pot comes from, a lot of the numbers are right there for you too. Do you still have that?
I do, but I find that I'm happier testing it out on my own because I really can't believe all those all the time.
It's true. Sometimes I find that they're overcooked and then or they're not cooked enough and then I got to turn it back on again. So you're right. You do kind of have to figure out the right amount, especially for the size pot that you have. I think that can make a difference as well.
As further evidence of how Instant Pots have made her more efficient, we've got 3 of them, and she gave 1 away, so we're down to 2 now. But ordinarily she's got 3 in the rotation, and our house always smells awesome.
And now Pat is retired, so I taught him how. He's the potato man. Once a week,
baby steps.
He's in charge of cooking the potatoes, and he likes potatoes, regular potatoes, a lot more than I do. So it behooves him to make sure that there's potatoes in the fridge.
I mean, the beautiful thing about the Instant Pot is it really simplifies the cooking process. And for people that don't have the time to sit there and cook over a stove, it really saves you time because you could just pop it all in there and press play and walk away and then come back later to a great meal. What's your favorite meal to make in an Instant Pot? Or you said you only do really like veggies, or you don't do the veggies, you do the beans, but do you actually put any meals together in there?
I love putting soups together. Like today, I got some beets out of the garden and I threw in beets. I threw in some cabbage. I threw in an apple, some onion, and I can't remember. That's about it. And so I'll go and puree that and it'll be a delicious, creamy wonderfulness.
That's
I love
pretty simple.
So fast.
Pretty simple. And now you also mentioned that you put them in jars and then you freeze them. Is there a process to that? Like, I'm guessing you're not going to put hot stuff into a jar right into the freezer, and you're not going to fill them to the top before you shell. Like, how does that work?
Well, with beans and grains, they really don't expand all that much. Liquids do, but I don't ever fill them to the top. But you definitely want to wait till the ingredient is cooled. And I like to rinse and drain both of them because when I take the jars out and then put them into my box in the refrigerator that has all of our jars, they pour out easily, like if we're making a meal. And so I just am trying to teach people, you don't even have to use recipes. Just have the foods in your fridge, in the jars, and you just dump. A lot of my videos on YouTube showing how you can make a meal in 2 or 3 minutes with your jars. And, it works for some people. It doesn't work for others, but it does work for us.
Can you give me an example of what a meal would be taken from those jars?
Yeah, Pat, you tell your favorite.
My favorite is really anything with any kind of Mexican type spices. But what I do is I'll I'll start with a layer of beans in the bottom, some greens, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes,
onions,
literally anything that's in our jars. And then we have these little enchiladas that we can put on top and throw it in the microwave for 5 minutes with a plate on top of the bowl, and comes out, throw some avocado on it, throw some salsa on it. And that's that's breakfast. We don't think of breakfast as breakfast foods per se. It's just
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It's just breakfast is just another meal.
So each jar in the fridge would have a different ingredient in it, and you would just take each one and dump it into a bowl, or each jar would have the meal already in the jar.
It's just a big question. They're all separate, and I just dump them in a little bit of everything. And by the time I'm done, I've got this bowl, and you think, my gosh, there's no way I can eat all this food, and it never fails. 10 minutes later, I'm dang near licking the bowl because it's so good. And yes, I have eaten it all.
What's funny is Pat has some foods that he doesn't really care for, but if they're in the jars, he'll dump them in his bowl and he'll cut them real small, like the broccoli and the mushrooms. He's got to cut them really. It takes him, more time to prep his bowl and get everything cut the perfect size. But he's eating these foods that he never used to order or eat or touch or anything.
Prior to us eating this way, to me, vegetables meant corn, potatoes, and iceberg lettuce. That was vegetables as far as I was concerned.
Sadly for us.
That sounds about right for a lot of people, for sure. So you have your beans or your grains frozen in the freezer. And then as you run out of the black beans, you go down into the freezer and you bring another one up into the fridge. So it defrosts and you kind of have that going on a rotation and kind of go through a jar a week. You know how much you'll go through in a week.
Right. Actually, I'm more methodical about it because I've got the jars. I put the newest one in the very back. And I don't care. I just bring out whatever bean is next. So I don't necessarily, unless I'm doing a certain recipe and I'm looking for black beans, but we just get out a bean and a grain unless I've cooked that week and I have plenty. So we always have plenty of beans and grains in the freezer. And, our weekly prep is mainly just cooking our potatoes or sweet potatoes and cutting our veggies. And we don't necessarily spend one day doing all of them because I date the jar on the top. And you'd be surprised. The biggest question people have is, well, how long do they last in the jars? Well, cruciferous vegetables, I just had some sliced Brussels sprouts that I poured into a jar yesterday, and the date was 4/23. I opened the jar, I smelled them. Okay, that's like a month later. It wasn't
in the fridge?
Yeah, it was in the fridge, in a jar, glass jar. And I'm like, 4/23, these need to go. I opened it up. I made a lemon tahini bowl with that, some sweet potatoes, chickpeas. It was fine. So cruciferous lasts easily for 4 weeks. Peppers if they're cut really small will last, 4 or 5 days. If you cut them bigger, they'll last longer. Beans, probably a week to 2 weeks, maybe.
You'll know when those beans are not good
yes, you smell it. Yeah. And other things last 2 to 3 weeks. It's amazing.
I mean, the other thing I'd say too that we kind of prep, and I can't believe that I eat this stuff, is fruit. I mean, we cut up now. We have a thing of cut up cantaloupe, cut up mango, cut up pineapple, cut up papayas, kiwi, and then we buy organic blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries at the store, and I'm middle of the day, I'll just take those fruits, dump them all into a big bowl, put some of our seed
mixture
nut mixture on top, and it's just a wonderful cold snack when it's 100 degrees outside in Texas.
I always find it easier that when the food's already in the fridge and it's just grab and go style, you're much more likely to eat it. If you're going to have to stand there and prepare something, people are busy. We don't have time. It's a pain in the butt to do it. But if it's in the fridge cut up, it's going to go a lot quicker, and it's much easier for me.
But if you can't see it,
if I don't see it,
and you don't dig for it, you won't eat it.
No, but it's true, and that's what's good about the glass jar.
Right there with you, Adam.
We get there.
So you're finding the glass jars are definitely keeping things fresher than if they were in glass Tupperware or plastic Tupperware.
Yeah, I just think glass lasts longer, and I can see exactly what's in it. The top of the jars would have the date and possibly the ingredient if I take the time to write the ingredient, but we have it in a big box that we got and we just bring the whole box out onto the counter when we make our meals and choose what we want.
Right. And what about the lids? I find sometimes the lids start to get old or smell, like with red pepper especially, like it'll absorb the smell of the red pepper and won't come out. So are you changing the lids more often, or you're not even really thinking about that?
We use mostly their Ball or mason jars by Ball or whoever the other one is. But we've also recycled salsa jars and whatever else. You don't have to go out and buy something new. You can use what you have. But there's also plastic lids that we bought on Amazon that are color coded for the mason jars, wide mouth or regular mouth. So we use both plastic and the metal ones. And only really onions is the only one that tends to leave a smell, really. But that doesn't seem to bother us because we use onions in almost every meal anyway. So.
Right. But the other thing she's found too is when she cuts the stuff up, certain things, the bigger you cut it,
they last
the longer it lasts.
Well, one of the challenges that people have transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle is that they think it's too difficult. It takes too much time to prep. And your tool that you have, this magnet with the times for the Instant Pot, is really helping people shorten their time and make things easier for them. So for people listening to the show, if they're interested in grabbing one of these magnets, why don't you tell us a little bit about where they can get it?
Sure. You can go to my website, plantbaseddallas.com. And at the very top, when you first open it up, you can click on that and order a set of magnets. Now it's shipped to either anywhere in the U.S. or now in Canada.
And if people want to learn more about what you are doing, where would they reach you?
We're on Instagram, YouTube channel. We have a Facebook group and a Facebook page, all by the same name, Plant-Based Dallas.
Plant-Based Dallas, love it. For those listening and wondering, it's not an affiliate for us in any way. We just saw a good story and a good product and excited to share with everyone. And we're so, so glad and so grateful that you're here with us today, joining, sharing your story and helping other people. I really do think other people are going to get some great ideas and save some time and make this lifestyle more sustainable so they don't fall off the wagon like your golfing buddy over there. So thank you so much for joining us today.
And you know what? Thank you all for all that you do and all your many, many podcasts and providing resources to everybody. We really appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.